beautiful to just see how it is, yeah, being used, and I hope that it spoke to you in some way. Hi, Danielle. Good to meet you. And is it just the six of us or seven of us right now today?
Yes, right now, I think there are two people who are going to be coming in shortly. But yeah, this is all we have right now.
Okay, it's very intimate, so even better. Well, I'll start, and let me just share my slides and I'll introduce myself. And again, thank you, Lauren, for reaching out and just this invitation. And this is the Kaibigan Core.
Yeah, Kaibigan Filipino core. So like UCSD's Filipino American org is KP, and then under that it's like three components. So we have STAR, which focuses on retention, core focuses on access and outreach, and then we also have our general board that puts together like um, our like talent show and culture night and other events like that.
Okay, beautiful. All right. Well, um, again, I'm happy to be here with you with the core, the KP core. All right. So I will share and start. And because it's so small and intimate, I think, yeah, I definitely want this to be just a rich source of conversation and just dialogue as well. Let me know if um, you can see the slides clearly as it loads. I did a prayer today. I was like, please let the virtual Wi-Fi world work properly today. Okay, can you see? Can you all see? Okay, wonderful. So one, again, thank you, Lauren, and to those that I will be meeting soon as we get into just this presentation. Um, I'll just first introduce myself, and really for the today was really guided by Lauren's questions that were very clear on why we want to talk about mental health. Why do we want to talk about wellness in the context of being Filipinx, Filipino, Panay, Pinoy, however you define yourself. And what you shared in the reading, for those of you that were in Dr. Solomon's class and read really this concept of building a home for Filipinx wellness and mental health. We have to name it and claim it, and that is the importance of really why we want to center our own wellness as a sense of, for me, what my belief is that we center wellness and our wholeness for the purpose of really, this is what liberation looks like: to be whole, to be seen, to be loved, to love ourselves, to love our community with the complexity of what makes us Filipino. Um, so let's see. So my name is Alexis Aguilan David. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I am also a credentialed school social worker. So I actually work with San Francisco Unified School District as a school social worker at Malcolm X Academy. That's an elementary school. And I'm also, I'm part-time at a site, and then I am part-time in our central office, mentoring other elementary school social workers. Um, and my gender pronouns are she, her, and sha. Okay, let's see. All right. So really today, based on, again, the questions that were posed in preparation for today, um, was one, really defining wellness, right? And I want to be able to kind of stretch our imagination when we talk about mental health, because it's very limiting, right? Knowing that wellness is encompassing of all different parts of ourselves that impact our mental health. So for today, it's really being able to define wellness, and me not being the expert, but really being one that wants to be in dialogue with you all about how you define wellness. And I'll share my thoughts on wellness. What does this look like, and why does our wellness matter? So really being able to start there for the foundational just work around wellness and healing centered work. And then we'll have an opportunity to just reflect on what are our practices, right? As Filipinx, Filipino people. Um, and we cannot talk about wellness if we don't also acknowledge the history of our people. And when we talk about being Filipino, I always like to name that even our identity by definition is by way of colonization, right? We are defined really by the solidarity amongst the Tao, the people of the archipelago, right? The islands that we now know as the Philippines were named after King Philip II, right? So that um, las Islas Filipinas, right? Of really understanding the complexity of who we are as people, to truly also understand what I guess the legacy of healing and wellness looks like. So we'll be able to kind of just do a quick recap on who we are, and with that, with those here, it's like, what are our beliefs, what are our values, and what practices do we do to support our wellness. And then the theme is really let's talk. So usap tayo. How do we start and have healthy conversations? All right. So I know it's really intimate here with the core. So this is just a roll call. It's not going to be activating the chat, because we're just gonna, if you all feel okay with just unmuting yourselves and then saying hello. If you can share your name, your gender pronouns, you know, the indigenous land you sit on, or your city, and then just if you could share, name one thing or act of whatever gives you joy. So I'll begin. So again, my name is Alexis Aguilan David. I go by she, her, and Sha. I am calling in from San Francisco, and on Ramaytush land. And one thing, amongst many things, is holding I have three children, and my youngest child, which is 2, her name is Zara. I hold her feet. I hold her feet. Her feet can still fit in my hand. So that is one of the things that gives me instant joy. Um, and then if it's okay, I'm going to popcorn to, let's say, it's, hi, Jamelyn. Can I pass to you?
Hi, I'm Jamie Lynn. You can also call me Jamie. My pronouns are she, her. I'm from San Diego, so it's Kumi Island. And one thing that gives me joy is I really like bullet journaling, and I always like make my theme like something that I'm into that month. So right now it's like a video game that I'm playing right now. I'll popcorn to Angel.
Hello, my name is Angel. Sorry about that. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am currently in Murrieta, California. I'm not too sure of the this land that it sits on, but I might have to do more research on that. But one act that gives me joy, I really like to sing, and it's definitely just like a something that I do to just escape from everything. Popcorn, Danielle.
Hi, I'm Danielle. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm also from San Diego, so also Kumi Island. And one thing that gives me joy, I would say it's writing and journaling, just because it really helps me stay centered and grounded. Yeah. I'll popcorn to Mario.
Hi, I'm Omar. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm also from San Diego, so Kumayaw land. Um, One thing that gives me joy is basketball. I'll say even, or like some people like playing basketball with like other people, but I also just enjoy like playing like just shooting by myself like offers some peace of mind. I think that's everyone. Or popcorn too. No?
Yeah, I haven't gone yet. Hi, I'm Lauren. My gender pronouns are she, her, hers. Also from San Diego, so Kumi Island. And one thing that gives me joy would probably be, I'll do two, watching sunsets and painting.
I love that. Thank you all. I love that. Bullet journaling. I'm gonna have to get into that because I'm a journal. I like to journal too. And I know that there's a whole thing and there's a bullet journal. I'm gonna have to invite that into my life. We got a singer, we got more writers. Thank you for breaking that down, Omario, around basketball, right? Not only to just play with, but just to play, right? And then watching sunsets. I'm gonna just end there because I don't know what your sunset looks like right now, but let's at 6:41. But beautiful. Thank you all for just sharing, and it's just good to hear your voices and see you all too. So this again, and thank you for sharing. I know it's also a process, so I appreciate just being like, I don't know where I sit, right? And this process of land acknowledgement has happened in Indigenous communities from the time of their existence, but as folks here on Turtle Island, it is a new practice and a way to decolonize. So this is just a moment to just remember that, yeah, outside of the land that, you know, we are on as settlers and also as displaced people, that as we have our Indigenous folks, that we want to ensure that we are active participants with at least on a minimum of a land acknowledgement, and just learning. Again, it's not about perfection, but really being able to learn and unlearn. So thank you all for just kind of just sharing, even in your introductions in our roll call. So again, as we are talking about mental health and our own wellness, and the reality of sometimes not feeling well, right? Just wanting to really take a moment with you all to just create our own space together and our own sacred container for the 50 or 45 minutes we have together. And I'm just going to introduce a practice to you all. So my family in the Philippines is from Tarlac, Concepcion. I'm Kapampangan. My Lola is a Hilot. She passed in late 90s, but she was a Hilot. And for those of you that are familiar, she was I call it a body worker, right? She worked, it's a spiritual and also a physical practice of touch that is healing. So what we're gonna do, because I don't know about you all, but I'm sure if you are students or just living in this time in May, it feels really busy. So I'm just gonna hopefully, if you're open to participate, of just doing some practices to center ourselves. So what we are gonna do from however we arrive today, we're gonna just do a quick sweeping of just the energy, the unwanted energy or unwarranted energy that maybe we took on today because we just try to get through deadlines, or we were doing working, or whatever it was that you did right before I entered into your space. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna warm up the hands. So if I can ask, and again, you don't have to be on video, but we're just gonna warm up the hands. And this helps just really centralize warm, healing energy. Let me just. into our hands as we're gonna do a sweep. So what we're gonna do after we feel that warmth in our hands and that energy, we're actually gonna sweep like we're sweeping our own floor. So we're gonna start from the back of our neck, and we're literally gonna sweep down to the floor to our fingertips. So you can start from your neck and go down to your fingertips, and just like if you know what a patik is, like you're just gonna wipe it away, like you're wiping soot off your body with intention of just getting rid of any unwarranted energy and putting it back into, the earth so that it may birth something really magnificent, whatever energy that was. Okay, so if you have it, you can move on to your other side. So from the back of the neck to the fingertips. You could also do to like literally the swiping of the back, and then your chest, the side of your rib cage, the side of your thighs, the top of your thighs. If you're sitting down, you could also do this standing up, and you're gonna make your way all the way down from your knee to your ankle and just sweep away. Okay. And we're just gonna take a moment to just shake off. Okay. And if you feel comfortable, just to reconnect, you may feel a sensation that feels a little tingly, because energy, you just move and circulated your blood as well. So you're just gonna literally just reconnect with your body and just squeeze whatever you feel comfortable squeezing, just to remind yourself that you are, just reconnecting with your body. And again, I just ask that, as we're going to talk about wellness, that, whatever we came here with, we're just going to put it to the side so we can be present with each other. I will encourage, please take care of yourself however you need to. And, as in our time together, that, just this is really for you. And I hope you're able to come away with something or new perspective or gain perspective on each other as we go through this presentation. Let's see. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna just play this. This is from a Usap Tayo campaign from the Filipino Mental Health Initiative in San Francisco. We founded this. It's in 2012. And this is Ronnie Marcos. So Ronnie is, we'll start with Ronnie around how we're defining wellness in the context of being Filipinx.
I'd like to share a story about a time when the world consists of only water and sky. There's also this mythical bird flying endlessly between the two entities. One day, this mythical bird grew tired and bored and decided to play tricks between the two entities, which resulted in quarrels and created land that we call Earth. In this land also emerged bamboos. And when this mythical bird plucked it open, emerged the first people of what we call the Philippines. I share this story because as a queer person of color, I struggle to find and feel a sense of belonging in a white heteropatriarchal society. I struggled with depression and anxiety because of it. But with the bamboo as a symbol, it offers me a reminder of wholeness, a reminder of retelling, reclaiming, and redefining stories of what it means to be whole, what it means to be our full, complex selves, without shame, without hiya. And so with with bamboo as a symbol, I feel more confident and able to actually make connections with other spirits, other people, other communities, where we can build and share narratives together.
All right. So something I really appreciate about this perspective, and I just named here from Rani, is this concept to be our full complex selves without shame, without hiya. Okay. Let's see. All right. So when we talk about mental health, I'm just going to give you definitions that you'll literally find if you Google it, right? So mental health is a person's condition with regard to their physiological and emotional well-being. Whereas wellness is this concept of the state of being in good health, especially as an actively pursued goal. Okay, and I want us to note something here. You see, for wellness, we have a noun. It's defined as a noun, and then mental health as a noun. Okay, so my belief on wellness encompasses both a noun and a verb, right? We can name the thing, but it's an actively engaging part of our lives. And one, and that's why I played Ronnie's just little clip there. And the Usap Tayo campaign is a video campaign, meaning let's talk, so Usap Tayo, to really break this the stigma around mental health and to break the silence, right? And as we know, that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. It is also Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. That it's important to understand that, yeah, we have to actively engage in this work for ourselves and then for our community. And I'll talk more about the why later, even though it might be pretty obvious. So for wellness, I believe it to be the nurture and care for our whole self, to actively care for our mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and generational well-being. Okay, so that may be a lot, but we'll break that down. I'll break that down. We'll break that down together. But that is my belief on what wellness is, that encompasses our mental health along with other parts of ourself. Okay. So I'm just going to give you a quick, quick synopsis of who I am and where I come from. So again, I shared that at least paternal side, my family is from Tarlac, Concepcion. My Lolo side is from Barangay Balatu. And this is my father here. This is Federico David. This is me at like 18 months, and this is my brother Frederick. We call him Derek. And here we have my mother, and these are my two older brothers, Jason and Zaldi. So that my kuya Zaldi and Jason. And then here's my mother again. This is me, probably 1.5, and my brother was 5 then. And what I want to share about my mom is that this picture here was them of her in the Philippines. The year, a few years before she passed away. And when my mother, something that I want to also share, that these two brothers that you see here, I never even knew I had brothers, these older brothers in the Philippines. So my mother died when I was 17 months old. So I was a 1.5 years old. She died of a aneurysm. And had a brain tumor. So she had cancer, and that that the aneurysm was the cause of her death. And this was during the time that there was a lot of just studies on how to care for particular cancers. So these pictures here, this one is like just a few, maybe months before her passing. And this picture was maybe just a few years before her passing, as well, as she went back to the Philippines after being away for almost 9 years to bury her father. And something about my mother is that she was married in the Philippines, had my brothers, and she had a dream and a pursuit to become a nurse, and also to uproot and go to migrate to the US for a better life for the family. And her husband at the time was not about it. He was like, I don't support this. We'll do fine here. Don't worry about, your dreams. We will make do and I'll cover, right? We're covered. And my mom wasn't feeling that. So she's like, you know what? For the sacrifice of our family, I'm going to have to leave. And that was ultimately how they separated. And at the time, and still now, there's no divorce in the Philippines. So she uprooted and left with the plan to return to my brothers. And my brothers were like, one was under 1 year old and the other was about 2 years old. And we know this story too often. About 6,000 of our Filipinos leave the Philippines every day, leaving their families. This is a major sacrifice, right? When we talk about really the economic situation in our home country, due to multiple factors, including, our US occupation and colonization, and things that were set up to really be a common story where a parent or a caregiver, primary caregiver, has to leave their families. And she did that. She met my father in Chicago. He was in the Navy. They met in Chicago, and they since he was in the Navy, they uprooted and moved to Long Beach, had my brother, and then 4 years later moved to San Francisco, where they had me. And it was during the time that she was pregnant with me that she started to and postpartum, after my birth, she started to feel different symptoms, and later realized that she had a brain tumor that was growing. And so so I just wanted to just share a little bit about my story, and fast forward to how I even figured out I had brothers in the Philippines, because my father never he didn't recall, but I named my my second son Marcelo after my mother's father, and I just found his name on my mom's death certificate. And it was on my son's first birthday that my mom's family found me. My cousin found me on Facebook from the Philippines, and she's like, "Hey, your mom is my aunt," because after her passing, we did not. My father and family, after some years, lost touch with her only brother that was undocumented here in the U.S. After just that ending of a relationship, or at least that life happened, and my dad remarried. That uncle that we had, we lost touch, and that was really the only relationship we had with my mom's side. So years later, like 30 plus years later, my family finds me, and she says, "Do you know you have two older brothers in the Philippines?" And I said, "I do." And she sent me all these photos me as a child, of my brothers, of my mom. And I saw my dad that same day because we were celebrating Marcelo's birthday, his first birthday. And I was like, Pa, did you know I had 2 older brothers in the Philippines? And he's like, oh, that's right. Your mom mentioned that. And I was like, good Lord, like you didn't want to tell nobody after all those years of me asking about anything about my mother. You couldn't tell me I had 2 older brothers. And he's like, after her passing, it was all a blur and I just tried to survive, So anyhow, all right. So these are just paternal and maternal sides of my grandparents. So I have my Lolo Marcelo, my Lola Pilar, and then my Lola right here, Lola Ading. She's the Hilot, and then my Lolo Patring, who is a farmer. Okay, and this is just my family. So that's just this is Marcelo right here. This is Zara and Emery. And Marcelo is like, what's the tea? So we're going to get into the tea right now. Okay. And I just put this here. I don't know who you are outside of what I just learned earlier. And if you're ever interested in the mental health field, I just put this here so you just know, like, okay. So I just want to share, I got my bachelor's in Asian American Studies and Criminal Justice. I got my master's in social work. I didn't even know what social work was until I thought I was going into law. And my the immigration attorney's wife that I worked for, as I was preparing for the LSATs to prepare for law school, she's like, I know your heart and I know that you are a person of service and really, she's like, and I know law. She's like, look into master's in social work. So I got my MSW and I'm so happy that was divine intervention, because if, I'm just so grateful for that path shift in my life. The PPSC is my school social work credential, and then the LCSW is a licensed clinical social worker. So I share that I'm in San Francisco State as a social worker and as a social worker mentor. I also provide clinical supervision for those that are working towards licensure. I primarily work with all of our BIPOC social workers because I know that it's important that we see more of us in the mental health field. So I put that there just as a call out if you're ever just wanting to learn more about that path. All right. So before I even go into this part, I want to take a pause and just hear from you all. I know that was I appreciate you just listening to also my my story, but I want to stop and I'll go back to just the wellness piece. What is your definition of wellness? I have a Padlet. Let me just go here, but we're so small, so again, we don't have to use a Padlet. We could literally use the chat, or you can unmute yourself. Let me see. I'm gonna just as I pull this up. Again, you could define it, or you could just kind of any thoughts that you have right now when we're talking about wellness.
I think for me, the first thing that comes to mind when I think of wellness is probably like health and balance.
Thank you. Health and balance. So what I'm going to do, just because again, we're super small. Okay.
Yeah, I was also just going to say balance, just having a good balance between all aspects of yourself.
For me, I always think of like the big three, like the mind, the body, and the spirit.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you for just sharing even like words. What words come up? What does it look like? What does it feel like?
For me, when I think of wellness, I remember learning about the 7 dimensions of wellness. And that kind of encompasses everything. So like physical, emotional, intellectual, social, spiritual, environmental, and occupational. And but when I think of it, I do think of balance, but I think of pouring into one more than the others if you need it, and knowing like when you need to do that, if that makes sense. So yeah, pouring into another dimension of wellness when you need it.
Okay, I'm not gonna pouring into another dimension. Did you say another dimension of wellness?
Yes, when you need it.
I didn't get all the 7 there. All right. Janessa, is it Janessa or Janisa?
Janessa.
Janessa. Physical, spiritual, emotional,
Social,
social,
environmental, and occupational. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Physical, emotional. Is it, oh yeah, all
7.
7.
Yep. There you go. Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Okay. And I appreciate the, yeah. And there's different thoughts on wellness and schools of thought around, again, what wellness encompasses. So I appreciate you bringing that up about different parts of what ourselves that encompass wellness. And I'll talk more. There's, when we think about even the intellectual, the environmental, occupational, right? Um, and how it connects to the physiological, our physical, right? The emotional. Um, and that's why when we talk about wholeness, we're talking about all parts of ourselves, right? So I don't know, even as like students or wherever you're working, if you've ever felt that disconnect sometimes, right? That there's something that does, that just does not click within, that tells you, that either affirms you or causes different stressors for various reasons. When we're looking at, we'll just use the 7 dimensions, right? When there's not an intersection that feels like it fits within, and that could be an uncomfortable place, right? Okay. All right, are we back on the slides? Okay, thank you. So something I just wanted to share, and this is from another school of thought of just really knowing that our thoughts, our beliefs, our thoughts impact our beliefs uh, impact the way we act, right, and move, right? So some questions here is, what are our thoughts about ourselves, right? If we were to just name it, do we like us? Do we even like us? You know what I mean? So what's our thoughts about ourselves? Do we think we're cool, right? Do we think that we're lovable, right? Um, do we think that that maybe we think we don't know enough, maybe we don't think we're Filipino enough, maybe we think we're hella Filipino and we're all about Filipino everything, but yeah, just generally, what are our thoughts about ourselves? Another question is, what are our beliefs about ourselves? What do we believe is true? Okay. And um lastly, really from that is like, what then do we act or do we practice to care for ourselves? Okay. So I would love to just take a moment to talk with you all. And we have this here. What is our story and how can we nurture our complex full selves, right? Knowing that these 3 parts of ourselves, understanding that there is a relationship between these 3, I just want to open it up. You don't have to answer, all the questions, or just whatever comes to mind when we think of this, or even what sparked when you're like, oh shoot, what do I think about myself? So I would love to just take a moment to just check in. What are some maybe thoughts or even contradictions?
For me, I'm just like connecting it to like my story and stuff. Like I have 6 older brothers and sisters, and like they're pretty older than me. Like my oldest brother is like 41. So I like grew up with like basically another set of parents. And I feel like a lot of the thoughts I have are like based on like how they think about me, and like if I'm uh meeting their expectations. So I think, yeah, the thoughts that I have about myself every day like revolve around, am I like doing enough to fulfill like their image of me, or like what they expect of me?
Jamie, from the 6 brothers you have, where do you fall within the order?
I'm the youngest.
Oh, you're the bunso. Okay, you're the
Young
young.
bunso. I have
Okay.
a twin sister too, so it's like 2 of us, and then I guess it's 6 in total. So like the 4 of them are older.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. That is real, right? Like our first community is our family. It's not even about what do I think about myself. It's like, what do they think about me? Am I living up to these expectations that maybe you know what their expectations are or not? I don't know. But thank you for sharing that. And I'm also from a large family, and with my 2 brothers, I actually that photo didn't share my entire family, but I have there's 8 siblings in all. So I am let's see, I am the fourth child within the family, with different yeah, after my mom's passing, there's just different family makeups, but there's 8 of us. All right, what else is coming up for folks?
Thinking about all 3 of these questions together, I think the first thing that came to mind is how my thoughts about myself and my beliefs about myself don't always align. In fact, they like more often contradict. And I guess this kind of comes when I have like, I guess like self-esteem issues. Like I'll be thinking negative things, but I know they're not true. And so then like my actions to care for myself kind of follow just getting those to align, getting my thoughts to reflect my beliefs, and to not let those negative thoughts like infiltrate my mind and like change my beliefs about myself.
I appreciate your honesty, and I appreciate the you naming where sometimes the contradictions lie, right? And the active participation on, like I heard earlier, like I have the right to kind of center myself, right? Or I have to, or maybe you're bullet journaling, or maybe you're being active, right? I'm a runner. I like running. That is my one of the physical practices I love doing. But what I also heard from you, Lauren, is that the struggle in between, right? Of trying to get like what can, to really develop a practice that would really hopefully center the best beliefs and thoughts about ourselves, right? And it's also about interrupting maybe negative thoughts about ourselves, right? Um, and this concept is it's a lifetime struggle, right? Because what I heard from Jamie is before were born, or as we are living, there's different expectations upon us, right? And that could contradict where we think or one, what our own expectations are of ourselves that may contradict with those that care for us or our family, or even friends. So that constant struggle of trying to find that balance that you all talk about when we talk about wellness. So thank you for sharing that. And I will just note that any of these things could be changed. There's nothing that's definitive. The hardest thing though is beliefs. So when you talk about self-esteem, thoughts are one thing, right? But it's the honest, deep beliefs about ourselves that that is the, you know, the walk that we have and the journey around how do we get to wellness where we can just be, right? It's not about doing, it's about, again, and I like to just emphasize, we're not human doings, we're human beings, right? And how do we accept our being, right? So thank you. Anyone else? Any other just thoughts, or maybe someone sparked your own experience, but anything else before we move on? All right, I'm going to continue on, and again, I will continue to just be in dialogue. So again, why does our mental health matter, right? And even though there's all these dimensions to mental health, which encompasses our wellness, it really, when we're thinking about our thoughts, beliefs, and actions, that there's a connection there, right? And it's the connection of how we see ourselves and how we move through just everyday life, right? Or sometimes where we get stunted because of these different parts of ourselves that either believe or think certain things, or do or not do certain things. And all of these have a relationship, a working relationship. I also want to name the about, you know, or just name the context of why our mental health matters if we center mental health. Um, that one, out of the Asian American community, Filipinos have some of the highest health concerns around and chronic illnesses, like diabetes, high blood pressure, um, high cholesterol, heart disease. And the ones I just named, my family has all of that, right? Um, and there's different concepts to why, but just to name, if we're to name data of Filipino just health, right? That exists in our community. We can't unname that because that is something we have to consider when we're thinking about our people as a whole. And then I also want to name why I even got into this work is one, outside of my own mental health journey from growing up in a family of, you know, growing up here in the US, both in San Francisco and Vallejo, having an older brother, and being a home of a single parent home, there was a lot of pressure on me to be, you know, the lady, the woman of the house that had this patriarchal way of being, right? To nurture, care for everything. Well, I just felt all the expectations and pressures, and I'm like, oh, good Lord, where is the joy, right? And anyhow, that even at a young age, I struggled with mental health in different ways, from self-esteem, from feeling, you know, just feeling lost. And there's something when you don't learn about yourself in your classrooms, right? I didn't really learn about Filipino history until I was in college. So being able to name that the struggle as a young person, later on launching into like my later work, I became a educator teaching ethnic studies in and Filipino American history and Philippine history in the high school level and at the city college level. And in my just learning of our own community, I realized that we have a big concern with mental health, where our young people have had entertained thoughts of suicide and also attempts, right? So just knowing that the data, even in San Francisco, and this is the work that I've been doing in the district with other Filipinx social workers, is addressing our mental health for our young people that have disproportionately reported high thoughts of suicide. Also, through different interventions, have realized that our Filipinx students have been overly reporting levels of like anxiety, right? Disproportionately to the district. We're only representing 4% in our district, but yet we do show up in all of these other spaces in terms of data, and our data speaks in different ways, right? So I want to just share that, why it matters, because we matter, right? Our young people matter, our lives matter, the way we move through this world matters, and the way in which we think, we believe, and the way we act in our daily lives, and even from all parts of our lives, right? So why does this matter? Because everyone here matters, right? Our community matters. And it's not selfish, okay, to care for ourselves. I know it's sometimes odd to hear, like, how do you self-care, right? I'll bring up just Audre Lorde's quote that I live by is, caring for myself is not self-indulgence, it is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare. And understanding our roots as Filipinos, and knowing that we come from really strong people, right? We also have been colonized peoples, right? So understanding that our wellness by design was not set up for us to be well. It was set up for us to not be well. And that doesn't just go for Filipinos, it's any BIPOC community, right? If we're looking at the history and legacy of what really colonization and white supremacy, how it really impacts the psyche, right? So I'll just name that there, that wellness is important because it's really, that's a political act for you to practice what makes you whole and well in the context of being Filipinx, Filipino, Filipina in the United States or anywhere in the world. I know this is, I'm not going to do history justice here, but I'm just going to quickly go through and really just want to hear your thoughts if something comes up around, again, just the history of Filipinos. So I'm just going to do a quick slide over to our root in terms of demographics of the Philippines, right? Hella islands, 3 major regions. We have major dialects and over 100 dialects with it, and some are being or have been are extinct now, right? But that is where we're at. And here, again, I'm not, I will share these slides so you can go through that. We have a long history of just resistance, and also in the context of, colonization. There's something that will really, if we're thinking about just generationally what our own ancestors and people have gone through, from Spain to the US to Japan, to even, just thinking about all the different ways in which other countries have come over and impacted us through really by, I say, death, education, and other means to really impact the ways we believe and our beliefs about ourselves. And here, just the relationship as we are in the US, that there is a keen relationship on the relationship between Filipinos and the US, and also the selective amnesia sometimes that we get around when we think about being Filipino, and the relationship that we've had with Spain and the US, where we forget that there was yeah, massacres, and you know, cultural genocide, if you will, um, with these intersections of, again, um, oppressive countries, and where also white supremacy lives within our own psyches. Okay. Here, it's to say that we're also, again, we, from the time that anyone has landed outside of our own, um, yeah, outside of our own folks, right, being able to see that um, we've been people that have resisted, and our political engagement and activism and resistance um, is really an act of healing. Okay, so Dr. Sean Ginwright talks about that healing-centered engagement is explicitly political rather than clinical. So political engagement heals. The reason, I just want to name the core, you all being part of the KP core, and I was looking up on what you all do, that this is a, even if you don't consider yourself um, activists or politically engaging, that is an act of political engagement by really ensuring that you're building a sense of community so that folks are seen, loved, and heard, especially our young people in the high schools, right? I wish I had you all when I was in high school. So just different concepts and around, again, colonial mentality, right? Of that was an inheritance. And I say inheritance because, again, when we're thinking about colonization, the root of colonization is controlling the mind, right? Outside of like the economics, the land, it was really the one of the kind of root shifts for people is when you get to control the mind, you've got it all, right? So I won't go deeply into this. I know we don't have too much time, but just really understanding this concept of colonial mentality in our um, just makeup and our history. So when we think about Filipino values and core concepts, I'm just going to introduce a few here. So there's ginhawa. It's both a noun and a verb in Bisaya, Cebuano. It refers to the breath or the act of breathing. So ginhawa is a more powerful concept than well-being or wellness, with its integration of the physical, social, emotional, and spiritual. This comes from the Center of Aguilan Studies, and I put this all in the resources. So again, this is talking about wellness and wholeness. Kapwa, meaning togetherness, is the core construct of Filipino psychology. That's why we always try to find each other. That's why even KP existed, right? Where you're like, where's our people? Pakikisama is the act of getting along with others and being united with the group. It is the strong need and desire to conform with the majority. So all of these, Pakikisama, I'll just note here, we are folks that are collective folks. And that's also an act and a juggling act sometimes when we don't relate to the majority, right? That could be our own family or community. But again, these are different values and concepts that are unique to us as Filipinos. Okay, these are just other elements that impact us, right? Impacting our thoughts and our beliefs. Okay, so I am, it's 7:29. I want to be mindful of time. I know you all are together until 8 o'clock. Is it okay to, yeah, just let me know how much time I could literally shorten this, but just say you got 5 more minutes or 10 more minutes. Where
Yeah,
you all at?
feel free to finish your presentation. After this, we only have like a form to fill out and then a raffle, which shouldn't take long. So feel free to finish whatever you prepared for us.
Okay, thank you all. So here we are with Ronnie again. So I'm just gonna do a quick little play here.
Breaking the silence to me is important because it means also breaking our sense of isolation, a sense of feeling that we are all alone. Breaking the silence means putting light into these secrets that we hold so much shame about. Breaking the silence means finally allowing ourselves to be open and connect with others. Breaking the silence to me means asking for help, allowing our hearts to break and expand and also practice joy. Breaking the silence for me means being okay with our emotions and finding different ways of coping with it.
Okay. So I will, yeah, again, this is not an exclusive list by any means. This is just a beginning. I'm just, as we heard Ronnie talking about breaking the silence, and we talk about wellness and all of its different parts, right? And you all share the different things you do, and you can definitely add to this list. And just wanted to name that in terms of our daily practices and rituals, whatever we do, that it impacts all parts of ourselves. I want to name that. And it's really and it's not about perfection by any means, right? To be like, oh, I journal every day, or I meditate, I meditate, or I get 30 minutes of exercise, which they say you should do, right? You should move. But it's really this concept of, what are your practices? What are your rituals? How do you center yourself, right? And I want to also name the more fluid, that we get this into our everyday, as simple as like, do we drink water, throughout the day, right? Um, are we eating, right? At times that that help you feel balanced. Like, all of these things matter. So just wanting to emphasize, when we think about wellness, again, it's not perfection. It's really about, what are the daily practices and rituals that help keep you, again, just physically well, to help you keep mentally well, emotionally well, spiritually well, because we know all of those practices impact generations, right? Even your family, right? Our ancestors, our immediate family to ancestors before, their acts of wellness. Again, if we go back to Audre Lorde's definition of why wellness is important, right? It matters because we are also modeling to generations afterwards, right? Um, I want to just pause here, and if anything's coming up for folks from what Ronnie talked about, of like really breaking this cycle, and what that can do for us, or just sharing things that really remind you, or really keep you centered at different parts of the day or throughout the week. But I want to pause here to just hear from folks, what is resonating or coming up for you right now.
One thing that came up for me, I actually remembered it from your reading, and I kept thinking about like generational health, because I think that's the one I'm like least familiar with. And I have my my book here, so I just looked up like what the line in your reading was. And it's the one about, it says, "It is in the principles of self-determination that we dream up our community to be a place of self-preservation, compassion, and joy, to do this work for a community on the journey toward being well, so that generations after may be well to continue to push the work forward." And I just think that's really important, because like, to break the cycle and like create something different for yourself is one thing, but that like has impact on future generations. And I think of like, even if we are able to make small changes, those will accumulate over time. And even if we're not alive to see them, maybe in 100, 200 years, it's it's hopeful to imagine how different the world could be by then.
You just gave me joy hearing that. Thank you so much for sharing that. What else? I have some comments, but I am going to just pause. Anyone, anything else coming up for folks? I'm okay with stillness and silence. And excuse me if I didn't catch a chat. You know, when you're sharing, I saw a little dot there of a chat. So again, if I'm missing anything, feel free to stop and pause. So Lauren, you set us up. We hold stories in our DNA and create new ones. Hell yeah. From our first ancestor, we got their DNA in us. It's a long thread of memory. And so period. So if you get into like genetics and really learning about that, the DNA and what it holds, it is just that. If you think about our ancestors even 100 years ago, what did they dream of, right? What are we dreaming of? What did our, you know, our parents dream of? And even though it's a struggle, right? Because expectation, right? Dreams are one thing, and then in reality of like having to live out these dreams, it's complex, right? Because we have our own healing to do, right? And in our healing, just know that that has real impact for our families now and our family later, right? So thank you. So we hold stories in our DNA and create new ones. If we also think about the neurological impacts, right? Even for those of us that have experienced trauma, I just want to name, and I named Dr. Jin Wright earlier, that he says clearly we are not defined by our trauma. So we're not even defined by even our colonized history, right? It has impact, but we have the ability to create and to heal. And that is this is why I'm hopeful. And this is why I'm even in this field, because I'm in the field of hope. I'm in the business of hope, right? And healing. So we are complex and full human beings. So just emphasizing that. Also just emphasizing y'all are enough, right? For even you showing up and being here tonight with all the things I know you are carrying, right? Some may be overflowing, that just to remember that you are enough and we are enough. Something about when we think about like white supremacy, or thinking about different concepts, I'll bring up self-esteem as again, in our journey, sometimes we're like, we don't think we're enough, right? Maybe we're also experiencing imposter syndrome, right? We must, we must not know as much as that person, right? Or is my experience enough? Your lived experience, our existence is enough, right? So just being able to center that. So again, your act of wellness, just understand that in itself is resistance and liberation, right? And to understand that how we arrive is enough. So here, I just really wanted to wrap up with just again, as we went through, I mean, there was a lot, there's so much to talk about with so little time, but just wanted to give a moment for any aha moment for you. Maybe new information, like, I didn't know that. I didn't know our name was after King Philip II, right? Or your own wonderings about wellness. So yeah, again, feel free to unmute, and then I'll try to find the chat to make sure that I answered anything, or maybe you put comments on there, but any aha moments for you all? Even thinking about your KP work, what's coming up for you as you all do the work that you all are doing for KP?
Um, I would say one of my aha moments this year was when we did our college application workshops and just being able to work with a lot of the high schoolers, and they were very vulnerable and being sharing their personal statements with us for some of the questions when applying to UCs. So just hearing their stories and the fact that they trusted me, to help guide them was really fulfilling, because I remember being in their position, and hearing all their hopes and dreams reminds me again of, that's where I started. And even though it's hard now, there's an end goal. And despite all the challenges that come up, having people like on the core board that I work with, or just having those interactions with those high schoolers, has really kept me going.
Thank you so much, Toby, for sharing that. Yeah, statement of the SOPs are so personal, right? Yes, so it's so personal. So and even that process alone, it's very vulnerable. So it's good that even in doing that, that there was extra eyes, because it's very isolating if you're doing that on your own with no direction. So thank you for sharing that aha moment um, for you in this work. Anyone else? Okay. Again, um, just wanted to name that even in this moment, you are enough, however you arrive and we arrive. So I'm going to just take this moment to just close out what we started earlier today. And I want to just really appreciate you for even making space to talk about wellness and mental health within your within your core. That tells me a lot, even about yeah, what you create space for. Um, so if anything has come up for you, or maybe you're jotting down notes or just coming up for you internally, I just again emphasize caring for yourself however you need to. Um, and like we did earlier, we did a sweeping, right, of just the energy um, on your own time, or now you can also again return back to yourself by you can do another sweeping, right? Maybe something came up, you're like, ooh, that memory came up, or these thoughts or beliefs. You can continue to do your sweeping, and then just reconnecting with yourself to get through the rest of the evening. But just want to really just end with some gratitude for inviting me in, and creating space around really discussing wellness. And then some resources I will definitely add to this list. I just added some here. I did holler at one of my other, a good friend of mine, Dr. Melissa Navera Lozano, and she shared some San Diego specific mental health resources for young people. So Operation Samahan. She also shared the what is called the UPAC, the Union of Pan Asian Communities. Um, and yeah, and I from the other things that we went through, I just added some links here. FMHI San Francisco, that is what we have in San Francisco. There's other Filipino mental health initiatives in the Bay Area that have launched as well. Um, and I will definitely anyone feel free to email me if you're like, I want to learn more about X, right? And I need some resources. I'm definitely here to yeah, just be part of your community in whatever way you need me to be. So I will again, I'm accessible through I, I'll share my email, um, and then again reach out for really anything, or if something has come up or some resources are needed. Even though I'm in San Francisco, I am committed to ensure that I can also expand my resources beyond where I'm locally at. So I'm going to stop sharing. think that is it. Let me see. Yep, so I'll stop sharing. All right. I appreciate you allowing me to go over, and I will definitely share. Oh, cool. I I love that. I love you pack. And yeah, I'm just being able to see the chat now, but that is my time. I appreciate you all. I am accessible to you all. Um, and again, I just appreciate the work that you all are doing and wish you a solid rest. Like we have a few more weeks before the end of the school year. So take care of yourselves however you need to. And your enough is the enough we need. So just wanted to just name that. So um, if there's nothing else, I'm just gonna take a moment to read the chat so I don't have to multitask, but I am here if there's any questions or really anything.
Thank you so much, Alexis, for being here. I'm sure you can see in the chat that we're all very thankful for the information that you shared with us and also just your time and your energy. Before anyone logs off, I just have one form I would like for y'all to fill out. Alexis, feel free to fill out this form as well. It's just an evaluation form for our program, and also we are going to be raffling. Well, it was supposed to be a raffle. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to. Hold on, let me send the form one more. It was supposed to be a raffle for 10 self-care packages, but there's only 9 of us that showed up, so like everyone can get one, and Alexis, feel free to. Oh, did I direct messaged it again? I'm sorry. 1 second. Okay, there's the form. But yeah, take a minute to read through the chat and fill out the form. But that's all we have for tonight's GBM. I really appreciate you all being here and taking the time out of your week 6 to do so. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or concerns for Alexis?
I take nothing personal. So if you're like, my concern was all good. It's all good. But thank you all. I'm reading the chat. If I can just share, again, I know mental health, the stigma around it is real in our community. So, and that's why I just shared however you show up, even virtually, is enough. And a question around how do we have this, right? How do we have this in our community? We just have it. We also push ourselves to be able to know when to just speak, when to acknowledge when things are hard, and really to lean when we need to lean, right? We are, yes, collective folks, but we have these individual journeys and experiences. So anyhow, thank you. Thank you so much. And again, I am accessible. Please reach out if you have just, yeah, if you just want to chop it up some more. And I'm glad that that book is being used for various reasons. I didn't even know it was printed. So when you're reading it, I'm like, it's a book, it's already printed. Okay, that is all. I'll be here and then I will share the forms as well. But yay, everyone got everyone got a care package. That's awesome.
Yeah. I forgot. I also have a couple more announcements, so I'm going to be sharing my screen one more time. All right. So here you can see this is what the self-care packages are going to be consisting of. We have a candle, face mask, lip balm, and a journal. So I know Jamie, you said you like to bullet journal, and Danielle said she likes to write. So more stuff for y'all. And as for announcements, KP Star has its annual camping program. It's going to be this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Saturday, 6 to 9 p.m. on Sunday. Attendance is not mandatory for both days, but highly encouraged. And if you do attend both days, you will receive a thank you gift. The registration link is right here, tinyurl.com/KAA camping 2021. In addition to that, KP Star is also doing shirts. So you can order one of the shirts. It'll be $13 to $15 depending on how many people sign up to buy one. There's an additional $7 fee for shipping, but Star is trying to figure it out like a pickup option so that you can avoid that charge. Also, so since it's camping this weekend, it's also KAA Appreciation Week. They're doing a tug of war bingo fundraiser. So it's a competition between the different classes, like first year, second year, third year, fourth year. And all the funds go towards our KP Core scholarships. So Core, y'all should really participate in this as well. For more details, see the post in the KP Facebook page. There's also silent affirmations going on. So if there's anyone you'd like to affirm within the KP space, there's a form here that you can fill out and Star will deliver that affirmation for you. Star also has a GBM in 2 weeks. It's going to be an arts and crafts night. Supplies will be provided as long as you sign up by the 13th of this month. And there's also the sign up form. If you need the link later, everything I'm mentioning right now is in the KP page. Also, core board apps are now open. So if you know anyone who's interested or if you yourself are interested, the link is on the flyer here. It's a tiny URL. So /KP core board app 21-22. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to a core board member. And we also will be having a board transition retreat. Lastly, our scholarships are now open for high school students, specifically high school seniors. So if you know anyone in high school graduating this year, feel free to share this with them. They did not have to be involved with KP Core this past year, but if they did, like even better. Yeah, that's all now. Again, thank you everyone for being here tonight. And yeah, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to put that in the evaluation form. Thank you all.